This entitled parent has one last showdown. We've seen her completely destroy the lives of those around her. Now watch as this epic tale ends and we see the final fate of each of its members. Happy birthday if today's your birthday, and on with the show. Act 4. What about Mum? During all of this, I have had very minimal contact with my mother. Still do. At this point, I only put as much effort into talking to her as she does me, which is only to wish me happy birthdays and happy holidays. As my father predicted about my mother, she did in fact get addicted. She has in fact been selling herself on the streets. She was a blonde, which is where I got my blonde hair when I was young, but now has very short brown hair. Pretty sure she's wearing wigs now. She's been in and out of jail for so many things now. One time she actually did it with someone on the hood of a car in the freaking streets. Dear goodness above, I believe me when I say, I wish I was exaggerating. The thing is, my grandmother is convinced Mum was the victim in all of this. She thinks it's Dad's fault Mum got hooked, that it was Dad's fault that she ended up homeless, that my dad did nothing to help her. Now, don't be so quick to think my grandmother is the bad guy here. I don't blame her, to be honest, not because my dad did anything wrong. I think my dad did the best that he could and then some. But Grandma once told me that if Mum doesn't get clean, she would disown her as a child. Grandma already lost the house she let my mum stay in because it was condemned by the stuff within it, I think. I don't know if they were cooking or not. All I know is that she lost the house. Anyway, I think when Grandma was faced with having to back up her threat of disowning her child, she found it easier to blame someone else. In last year's tax returns, Mum claimed that she was getting $3,000 back, somehow not sure. Then that she was going to use that $3K to get a car, even though her license was taken from her long ago. When that $3,000 never came, she convinced Grandma it was because of the bankruptcy Dad had left her in from the farm. Remember when I said that Dad had agreed within the divorce that he would take full responsibility of the farm, including filing bankruptcy on his account back in the first few acts? Well, yeah, that was a flat-out lie on Mum's part. Their divorce papers prove it. Grandma was said that this was the case, and that this was all Dad's fault. Let me make it clear. Grandma is not an entitled parent. Again, I think she finds it easier to believe that it was someone else's fault, rather than her child is just a stupidly irresponsible woman child. Because I didn't raise your mother to be like this, and I believe her. Grandma is a sweet old lady who's so close to retirement. She's just really depressed at how her child and one of her grandchildren turned out. The last time I saw Mum in person, it was outside the stadium after I graduated college last year. She, Dad, and stepmom were all there. She had also brought along a very close friend of hers. She was no stranger to me, as her and my mother were friends ever since they were toddlers. Practically sisters. It was actually pretty adorable. They have pictures of each other together as toddlers. Anyway, she and my dad were actually having a pretty civil conversation together that day. Despite their history, every time I saw them together, they behaved like adults and didn't start any drama. Thank goodness. At least, not any drama that would have started a scene. I was with my best friend, taking pictures with him, and he was the only one who could make it to my graduation outside of family. As I was with him, my mother had guilted my dad into lending her $20 for gas money. As he was about to give it to her, my stepmom swooped in and put her foot down, telling her no. My stepmom is one of those tough love types. She won't hesitate to tell you the truth if it hurts your feelings, if you need to hear it. She's tough most of the time, when she needs to be, and sweet when she needs to be. Know what I mean? So she definitely had no fear of telling someone no. Mum didn't make a hissy fit or anything, just accepted it and carried on the conversation. My parents were living over an hour away from me at the time, so I didn't go and visit them after graduation. We had already had plans to have a celebratory dinner at my restaurant of choice that weekend. So we took our pictures and said our goodbyes, and then they left. I decided to stay with my mum because I couldn't remember the last time I saw her, and I knew I likely wasn't going to see her again for a long time. Case in point, I haven't seen her since that day. We talked and made our way to a nearby Burger King. As we were talking, she told me about the conversation with Dad about the $20. She said, "Your dad was about to give me the $20, but then the hammer came down and stepmom stopped him." She didn't badmouth them or anything to me, but when we got to Burger King, I did take note of the fact that she paid for her $15 meal with no issue after I offered to pay. We talked, had a good time, then left. I gave her $20 as at least a thank you for going out of her way to make it to my college graduation. I had honestly expected her to have one excuse or another to miss it. The next day, stepmom had sent me a screenshot. It was a message from my mother's friend I'd mentioned online. "It was nice meeting you, but your wife's kind of a C though." You see, my dad doesn't really have a social media account. He doesn't really do the whole social media game. But my stepmother created one of those social media accounts that have both of their names and images on the profile. It basically just says dad and stepmom last name. So I'm pretty sure my mother's friend sent that knowing stepmom would likely be the first to see it. Stepmom didn't reply, just blocked it and told me, "This is why we have issues with your mother." And I already believed her. I completely understand why they go out of their way to avoid her. She apologized for bickering about my mother to me, and that was that. We still see the occasional online police report involving my mother, but that's it. Seeing that my mother is in jail for 1 week or another is as common as seeing what the weather is going to be for me. I honestly don't know how she is so commonly in and out of jail as she is. I'm surprised she's not in there for the long haul at this point, know what I mean? But oh well, she's a big girl. If she wants to keep ruining her life, I'm not going to stop her. I'm not her mother. This really just makes me pity my grandmother, who is her mother. Act 5, Epilogue. My sister's out there, somewhere. Got 3 kids, possibly a 4th now. I have no idea. My mother's probably back in jail again for all I know. Maybe she's scheming how to get her next fix that'll end up landing her back in jail again. I don't know. I'm not too certain what happened between my sister and mother when my sister was living with her. All I know is that mum did a little bit of babysitting here and there. Then my sister living with my mum turned into my mum living with my sister, in her place somehow. And then there was some falling out. And then my sister was on her own in her place with the kids, and my mother moved in with her lifelong friend I mentioned. That one paragraph pretty much summed up everything I know about what happened to them in between me graduating and now. If you made it this far, congrats. Now you pretty much know darn near my entire life story, outside my school life. All I really left out was that the year after my parents' divorce, we ended up moving schools because my bullying problem had gotten so bad. Eventually, my whole self-destruction thing was used against me too. I couldn't freaking take it anymore. So we moved, and oh my gosh, I can't tell you the euphoria of the paradise my new school was. Sure, there were some jerks there, but what school doesn't have a jerk or two, eh? Gosh darn, it was so much better. Imagine going from walking in a hot desert, suffocating, to graciously swimming in all the water you could drink. That was how strong the difference was. It was here that I met my 2 best friends. I hope the 3 of us are together until we're back in diapers again in a nursing home. Anyway, that's irrelevant. My school issues was only touched upon here and there due to its relevance to the story. I wasn't treated well, that's all you need to know. It's a different story entirely that holds almost no place here. I just wanted to share that I turned out fine in the end. Things got really hard after the divorce. Well, harder afterwards. The divorce gave all of my buddies ammunition. Nothing was too low for them. If it would hurt me, they'd go for it. But hey, they're all high, pregnant, living with their parents, in jail, or in some sort of combination of the aforementioned. The best revenge against them is to outlive them. My dad and stepmom bought a new house. They have a sweet, loving relationship together that I'm certain will last until death do them part. About a week after my college graduation, I too signed off on and got a house. I know what to do with myself and how to do it. I'm 21 years old and have my life on track. I'm also following my dream of becoming an animator, and have well over 2,500 hours of animation work under my belt. It's become my passion. I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging. I just want to share that things are better now. I'm only really sad that my sister isn't having her own good things going on right now. Growing up, she was the good one, the pretty one, the smart one, the most talented pitcher on her softball team, the lead in their basketball team. Dad and I often wonder what really went wrong. Maybe it's our arrogance, maybe our hubris. We don't know if it was really our fault. Heck, most of this was before I graduated high school. I don't even know if I remember it right. Dad for sure is certain he did something wrong. There are a few things he wishes he did differently, but I don't blame him. For a while, I was all he had left. Before he met my stepmother, it was just me and him. He lost his lovely farm, home, daughter, wife, and his son was all he had left. Everything that was happening to me in school just came to head at a terrible time for him. I know most kids wish they had even one parent as great as I see my father. I am far beyond grateful for everything he's done for me, and it's kind of telling which parent was better for their child. Me, who finished growing up with Dad, went to college, learned a trade, moved out before turning 20, got a house before turning 21, and have a plan for the next few years of my life to get settled. Sister, who finished growing up with Mum, barely finished high school, and now has 3 kids with as many baby daddies before turning 23. I know my sister can do better for herself, but she just won't do it, and she has to do it now, since she's got kids she's raising on her own. I hate to say it, but she's likely to have CPS knocking on her door someday. That's pretty much it. For real this time. Okay, wow. So we're finished with our 5-part epic story. And honestly, I mean, what do you say after such a crazy experience? I guess we'll start with the positives. I'm really glad that this guy has his life on track and it's going pretty well. You can't control and be responsible for everyone around in your life, but you sure as heck can take personal responsibility and do the best with what you have. If this story tells us nothing, it's that people who take personal responsibility are the exact opposite of entitled people. I guess what's so sad is just how much destruction entitlement can cause to the people around them. I hope you guys enjoyed this multi-part story, and if you enjoyed it, please let me know down in the comments below. Submit your story to be read on the channel at VoiceyHereStories@gmail.com and join our Voicey veteran community at r/VoiceyHere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. Alright Voicey veterans, I'll see you in the next one.